Greetings, welcome all of you. My name is Victor Beausoleil, and I'm the president of the Canadian CED Network's Board of Directors. It is my pleasure to be hosting CCEDNet's, It is my pleasure to be hosting CCEDNet's 23rd annual general meeting today. We begin by acknowledging the various ancestors that came before us, for each of us as individuals, but also the many ancestors who have lived on this time since time immemorial, as well as acknowledging the land itself from which all life springs. I'd like to welcome all of you, CCEDNet members, especially if this is your first CCEDNet AGM. I'd also like to welcome CCEDNet staff who are also in attendance today. We have been doing entirely virtual bilingual English/French AGMs now for a few years, but this is the first year using Zoom. So let's take a moment to review a few key features to make sure everyone has the best experience possible. First, this AGM is being presented simultaneously in English and French. You can access interpretation by clicking the globe icon in the lower navigation bar of your Zoom window and then selecting the either English or French channel. Once you do, we would recommend clicking mute original audio to help eliminate distractions. If you don't turn interpretation on, you remain in the main channel where speakers will be presenting in both English and French. You also can access a live transcript of this meeting by clicking the live transcript CC icon and selecting show subtitles. You can click and drag the transcript subtitles to whatever position is most comfortable for you, or turn them off if you find them distracting. That will likely work when the language spoken is English, but may look rather odd when someone speaks French. We ask you to change your display name to include your first and last names and the name of your organization, as well as your pronouns, if you're comfortable doing so. To rename yourself, you can hover your mouse over your video feed in the Zoom window. Click the three horizontal dots that appear in the top right corner of your feed, and then click rename. Alternatively, you can hover over your name in the participants panel, click more, and then click rename. Also, if you'd like to change the skin tone of your reaction emojis, navigate to Zoom preferences under general settings, and you'll see an option to select your preferred skin tone. So, how will we be handling AGM motions? Well, when a motion comes up, we'll first ask for a mover and a seconder from among the members in attendance. To move or second, you can click on the reaction smiley face icon on the lower navigation bar and then click raise hand if you don't see that option. You can use the applause emoji as an alternative. Let's practice that now. Go ahead and raise your hand, your virtual hands, or clap them together. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good. It looks like many people can raise their hands, so I shouldn't have any trouble getting movers and seconders for resolutions. Once the motion is seconded, we'll launch a poll asking for your votes. You can then click yes, no, or abstain to submit your votes. Please only vote if you are a member. Let's try that out. We're going to launch a poll, a test poll. Please vote in it. Excellent. The voting seems to work. Thank you. If any of this was challenging or didn't work, don't worry. We have staff providing real-time tech support throughout this meeting. If at any time you need help, send the chat message to Matthew. He's one of the tech supporters on our team, and he'll help you out. So in terms of our agenda, our first item is call to order. This year, the formal AGM is 1 hour, which will be followed by a special ceremony to present the Stronger Together Awards. So at this time, I'd like to hereby call this meeting to order. Our parliamentarian for the AGM today, in case there are any procedural questions, is Ryan O'Neill Knight. Thank you so much, Ryan, for your leadership and diligence. In terms of verification of quorum, now for the verification of quorum, Melissa Lassard is our credentials officer. Our bylaws require 25 members for quorum. Melissa, with the members in attendance, do we have quorum? Wonderful. Melissa's provided a note in the chats. Yes, we do have quorum. All right, so we have a good group of people together, and we want to give everyone a sense of who's here. So please type your name in when you're joining us and where you're joining us from into the chat box, please. We'll wait a few seconds so folks can read some of the names, locations as they're posted. Please feel welcome and acknowledged in this remarkable opportunity to share, learn, and build together. Thank you so much. Thank you, Diana. So the next item is the adoption of the agenda. Can I have a mover and a seconder from among the members to adopt the agenda you have before you? Please raise your hand. Wonderful. Mike, you may have to help me out. So I'm not seeing all the screens.
Okay. I see Barb and Ann Krista.
Thank you so much, Barb and Ann. I really appreciate you. So Barb moves and Ann Krista seconds the adoption of the agenda. Any questions or comments related to the adoption of the agenda? Please feel free to raise your hand and speak or post them inside the chats. So it seems like the motion was carried. We appreciate all of you.
Hold on, we can actually do a vote. Sorry, you're able to see those results? That's great. Okay. Oh, yeah. I'm not keeping up. You're doing a great job, Victor. Sorry, I'll shut up.
No problem. Thank you. But I may need your help in terms of the mover and the seconder. Thank you.
Okay.
So in terms of our next item, the adoption of the meeting minutes from June 11, 2021. Item 4, adoption of last year's AGM minutes. Can I have 2 members move and second the adoption of the minutes? Please raise your hand, please, or type into the chats. I appreciate your eyes, Mike. Thank you.
No problem. So this time I saw Diana Jedig as a mover and Katie Allen as a seconder.
Thank you so much, Diana, and thank you so much, Katie, for moving and seconding the adoption of the meeting minutes from June 11th, 2021 annual general meeting. Any questions or comments, you can post them in the chat box, or if you'd like, please take yourself off mute and speak, or please raise your hand. And Mike will look out for your hand raising because I'm on 2 screens now. Thank you. Now for the votes. Can we please vote on the poll on your screen? Wonderful. Seems like the motion was carried. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your leadership. The motion was carried. So we're going to move on to the next item, which is our 2021 annual review highlights. For the 2021 annual review, I'd like to invite our executive director, Michael Toy, who's done remarkable work, and we so appreciate your leadership, to make a brief presentation. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Victor. Hey, everyone. Thank you for being here. It is great to see so many people out. And part of this really important democratic exercise that's fundamental to the raison d'être, the rationale of the network. Although I did take note that in our test poll, everyone voted to install a flock of geese in our offices. So I'm a little bit concerned about our democratic exercise here. But well, other than that, things are going great. So I'm going to start in French. So if you don't understand French, make sure you switch to the English interpretation channel at the bottom of your screen. Et merci à tout le monde d'être là. Il me fait plaisir de voir autant de personnes ensemble.
It's great to see so many people together for this democratic exercise. As with all of us, 2021 was another year of challenges and opportunities. It was also a year of evolution, progress, and important advances that I am pleased to share with you.
La fondation de notre travail repose sur une théorie du changement que le conseil d'administration a adopté en 2021 et pour laquelle nous avons établi un cadre d'évaluation et des indicateurs de performance. L'infographie que vous voyez à l'écran a été présentée aux membres l'année passée et reste inchangée. C'est
and has
plutôt dans
not
la mise en
changed.
œuvre que nous
It
avons fait
is
beaucoup de progrès
rather in
cette
the
année.
deployment that we've
Mais
made a
avant de
lot
me
of progress
lancer
this year.
là-dedans,
But
j'aimerais
before I get
remercier les
into
membres du
that,
comité de
I'd like
travail
to
sur
thank
la
the
théorie du
members of the
changement,
Theory of Change
tant
Working Committee,
du personnel
both staff
que du
and
conseil
board,
d'administration
who have
qui ont
contributed to
contribué à
this
ce progrès.
progress.
Il y a Barb Davies, Katie Damon,
Davis,
Nicole
Katie
Rosno
Damon,
Redhead,
Nicola
Victor
Rosno
Beausoleil,
Redhead, Victor
Raisa Marks,
Beausoleil,
Alex
Raisa
Applin,
Marks, Alex
Hannah
Applin, Hannah
Atkinson-Rengle,
Atkinson,
and Adriana
Renglish,
Zielinski.
and Adriana Zielinski.
Pour atteindre les résultats
Since last
escomptés,
year, to
nous avons
reach our
établi
goals, we
des
have
axes stratégiques
consolidated the
d'activité. Depuis l'année
strategic
passée, nous
areas
avons
from 6
consolidé
to
les axes
4, the
stratégiques
ones you see here.
en passant de 6 à 4, celles que vous voyez ici à l'écran, qui sont les politiques publiques, l'apprentissage et
you see on the
l'innovation,
screen
les
that are public
communications
policy,
et l'engagement
learning and
régional et
capacity building,
stratégique.
strategic
Je vais
and
parler
regional
brièvement des
engagement, and
réalisations de chacun,
communications.
mais vous pouvez voir une
I will speak
présentation
briefly
plus
about the
détaillée
accomplishments of
de nos
each, but you can see
activités
a more
en
detailed
2021
presentation
en
of our
cliquant sur le lien
activities in
fourni parmi les documents
2021
pour la
by
réunion
clicking on
aujourd'hui.
the link provided among the material for the meeting today.
Our national policy work had a landmark year last year. You may recall that at the last AGM, I spoke about 5 members who'd agreed to match an investment by CCEDNet, allowing us to hire a staff person in 2020 who was dedicated to national policy work for the first time. That investment really showed results in 2021 in terms of our connections and influence with the federal government. From delivering a week-long tour for the Federal Minister of Families, Children, and Social Development, to hosting a post-budget debrief for the social innovation and social finance sector at the minister's request, to securing a meeting with the new minister after the federal election last fall, even before Parliament had reconvened. CCEDNet's role as an effective and recognized intermediary for the work that all of you do has never been stronger. Sur le plan de l'apprentissage et de l'innovation, nos programmes représentent ici le plus grand champ d'action parmi les 4 stratégies. Nous étions très heureux de poursuivre le programme Création qui avait été relancé en 2020 en partenariat avec l'Association nationale des centres d'amitié et la Société de recherche sociale appliquée. Sur 3 ans, ce programme va placer 100 jeunes qui font face à des obstacles à l'emploi dans des stages auprès d'organisations à impact social et dans des centres d'amitié à l'échelle du Canada. Puisque vous êtes tous membres du réseau, vous connaissez, j'espère, nos programmes d'apprentissage comme le programme de leadership communautaire et le programme d'action sur le climat et pour la transition de Synergie. Après 5 ans, nous avons aussi conclu avec succès le projet d'écosystème de l'entreprise sociale S4S, un projet important qui a concrétisé le rôle rassembleur du réseau pour des projets collaboratifs. Le réseau soutient aussi des projets qui avancent des modèles novateurs, comme une recherche longitudinale sur les impacts des entreprises sociales de l'insertion pour le travail, l'approche commune de la mesure d'impact et le programme de données communautaires. Communications and information sharing has always been a central function for CCEDNet. Though over the 22 years of the network's existence, the information environment in which we operate has changed completely. Sadly, I've been informed that our vintage website with its classic 2008 look has not been keeping up. So in 2021, we started work on a new website that will be awesome and is going to be launched very soon. On this slide here, you can see a sneak peek of what it's going to look like. We continued, of course, to publish news, events, tools, jobs on our website and share those in newsletters, member communiques, and social media, with content that reflects the values and priorities articulated in the theory of change. Le développement d'écosystèmes régionaux ou en lien avec un sujet stratégique continue à être un levier clé. Le Manitoba reste un modèle probant de réseau provincial avec ses activités orientées sur la création de forces, de connaissances, de liens et de pouvoir. En plus du travail de jumelage pro bono, l'équipe de Spark a repris les services de développement de l'entreprise sociale et 100% des organismes sondés ont indiqué qu'ils recommanderaient le volontaire Spark avec lequel ils ont été jumelés.
if they
Nous
were
avons
matched
également
with
renouvelé
it.
notre
We
partenariat
also
avec le
renewed
chantier
our
de l'économie
partnership with
sociale et
Chantier de
soutenu le
l'économie
développement de
sociale
l'Alberta
and
Social
supported the
Economy
development of the
Ecosystem
Alberta
Development,
social
ainsi que d'autres activités en Ontario et
economy
Colombie-Britannique.
ecosystem development, as well as other
Un
activities in
regard
Ontario and
stratégique a été
BC.
porté sur
The
l'investissement
strategic
communautaire en
focus on community
adaptant le Community
investment was
Investment
achieved
Co-op
by
Startup and
adapting
Operations Guide de la
BC's Community
Colombie-Britannique
Investment Co-op
pour
Startup and
l'Alberta, le
Operations Guide for use
Nouveau-Brunswick,
in
la
Alberta,
Nouvelle-Écosse,
New
l'île du
Brunswick, Nova
Prince-Édouard
Scotia,
et
Prince Edward
l'Ontario,
Island,
et en
and
produisant un
Ontario,
rapport
and
sur
by
l'impact
producing a
économique des
report
fonds
on the economic
d'investissement du
impact
développement économique
of the Community
communautaire en
Economic
Nouvelle-Écosse.
Development Investment Funds
Nous avons
in
aussi
Nova
porté
Scotia.
un projet de
We also
recherche
conducted an
action sur les
action research
possibilités de relève
project on
sociale
social
au
succession
Canada Atlantique.
opportunities in Atlantic Canada.
Now, at previous AGMs, this is where the very inadequate summary of a year's worth of hard work would end. But this year, there's progress. I have something new for you. One of the goals, of course, of creating our theory of change is to ensure our activities are contributing to the change that we seek. Our theory of change has 4 intermediate outcomes, and the performance measurement framework that was adopted last year has indicators for each of the strategies and outcomes. Staff have been hard at work gathering data, completing our performance measurements framework. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone who completed the member survey back in January. You might remember that, which was the source for a lot of the outcome indicator data we've collected. So I want to quickly share some of those indicators. This being the first year, this new structure, we have what are more like, I'd say, a set of benchmarks than progress indicators. And with, of course, a big caveat that this is a learning process and still a work in progress, I hope that these will provide an idea of how we're starting to track our impact. So in terms of political action, here are 2 indicators that we're watching. This first one, the number of CED policies created or maintained by government at 73, governments, plural, is actually drawn from a research report that was first prepared in 2020 and updated annually, looking at a range of federal and provincial policies related to CED. And our hope is that this is going to allow us to track whether, as a whole, we're moving forward or backward, generally speaking, in terms of creating an enabling policy environment for CED. The second number of people participating in advocacy campaigns might seem like a small number, but in 2021, we actually changed our approach. And rather than using an automated email service, which we used for a campaign in 2020, asked people to write personalized messages and set up meetings with their local MP, and then tell us that they did so. So it was kind of a high bar to entry and lots of rooms for us not finding out even what people did. But our thinking was that those actions would have more impact than many automated pre-written emails. So we're experimenting with different approaches, and different campaigns that are going to have the most effect and build capacity among CEDNet members and our constituents for political action. We're, I think, making progress. Actually, I'd say my impression is that our influence grew to its highest level ever in 2021, and we're well positioned to continue. The second outcome here on co-creation by diverse sources and voices is cross-cutting through all of our activities and vital. We carefully considered, as we were developing the performance management framework and indicators, how to define and measure diverse sources and voices. And we asked members about it, as well as staff and the leadership as part of our year-end data collection. Given the focus of community economic development, you can see that it maybe isn't surprising that 91% of respondents to the member survey consider that they represent people with diverse lived experience, and 85% are co-creating their activities and strategies with the populations they support and represent. We also looked at the CEDNet board, policy council, and staff leadership through an intersectional lens based on anonymous self-identification. We didn't get 100% response rate, but the numbers you can see here in terms of the different types of identities and representation give us an idea of where we're at overall at this time. The other newer cross-cutting lens in the theory of change is a more explicit focus on ecological and climate considerations. it's interesting to see that 27% of respondents to the annual survey indicated that climate or the environment is their primary sector of activity. And 45% of members have successfully incorporated ecological perspectives, while another 16% are in the progress of or planning to do so in the near future. So our intention this year is to explore a bit more carefully what types of activities the organizations who are primarily working in climate or the environment are undertaking, as well as finding out more about how members are incorporating ecological perspectives. The final intermediate outcome, information, learning, and relationships, is that we want members, all of you, to have access to the information, learning, relationships, and resources that you need in order to be successful agents of change in your community. I think it's pretty good, actually, that over half of respondents indicate that CCEDNet provides tools, services, and resources that they can't find anywhere else. Nearly 60% made changes in their work because of what they learned from CCEDNet. And 2/3, in fact, are very or extremely satisfied with the engagement opportunities offered by CCEDNet. So there's still some room for growth in these numbers, but it seems like a strong baseline to be building from. So that's it for the activities and outcomes in the first year of our theory of change. In summary, I'd say we're figuring out how to measure the impact we're having, as well as how to communicate that impact. For example, I apologize for having subjected you to my unbridled lack of skill in presentation design with those last four slides on outcome measures. There's lots of room for improvement there. And we want to do a better job of demonstrating and communicating our impact so that you, our members, can continue to scale up your impact as well. Because what all you are doing is needed really more than ever. CCEDNet's vision is the only one I know that brings together the values of inclusion, diversity, equity, dignity, self-determination, and solidarity, with a systemic analysis of the problems we're facing, a clear position on power and voice informing structural change, and practical solutions that are already working. It is inspiring and really does give me hope in the midst of everything we're all going through. So thank you, all of you, for that. And of course, I get most of all to thank the small but talented and dedicated staff team, plus partners and contractors who have been part of everything that's been accomplished over the last year, spread out across the country. The board and members lead our work, but the staff and our partners make it happen on a daily basis. And I'd like to say a big thank you to each of them. And this 2021, apparently either we didn't spend enough time on Zoom or I didn't think to get a staff photo of the team back then. So this is actually last week. We're missing a few key people, but it is a fantastic, from last year, I would say, and this year as well, but it's a great team. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mike, for your leadership and diligence as always. We really appreciate all your hard work and the work of the entire CCEDNet team. Are there any questions for Mike? You can post them in the chat box or raise your hand, come off mute, and please feel free to speak. Okay, bravo. So, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yes.
I was just curious with the community advocacy piece. You said you switched from just the mass emails to people writing letters to their MP. And I guess after analyzing that, would you be looking at maybe a dual process where they're doing both? Or would you always pick one or the other?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ryan. Thank you. I think the strategy last year when we went just with the request for personalized communications was the feeling that if we give people the option just to click right for an automated email, then that's what most people will do. And we would sort of not, there would not be the same kind of encouragement for the more significant personal outreach that we were aiming for. So I think we had a bit of a gap in our policy communications role, and I'm not sure there was, I think there is a report on the sort of the results of that campaign, and we'll have to reassess that as we prepare for a potential campaign again this fall. But yeah, there's trade-offs to both options, and we'll have to see what we feel is working best.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for that question. And thank you, Mike, for the answer. Were there any other questions for Mike? If you do have one, please feel free to use the chat feature or come off mute or raise your hand. Incredible. So we're going to move on. I'd like to introduce our remarkable colleague, Gail Henderson, the CCEDNet's treasurer, to present the results of the 2021 financial audits.
Thank you, Victor. So this year, once again, our auditors were Groupe Ardéal, located in Victoriaville. As part of the usual audit process, the Finance Committee held an initial meeting with the auditors prior to the beginning of the audit to review the process and provide specific direction. And then we met with them again at the conclusion of the audit to hear the findings. I'd like to thank the members of CCEDNet's Finance Committee for their time and valuable contributions the last year. Victoria Morris, Roz Lockyer, Diana Jedig, and Yvonne Poirier. The financial statements were provided with the AGM materials if you'd like to follow along at home. For the presentation, I'll go through the main elements of the audited financial statements, highlighting the important points from the statement of operations and the balance sheet. I'll go through the presentation quite quickly to leave time for questions and comments afterwards. So the first 3 pages of the document are the auditor's report. This is a standard letter similar to what we've received in the past, following the Canadian accounting standards for nonprofit organizations. The auditors give their opinion that based on their testing, they determined that the financial statements fairly present CCEDNet's financial position. So this slide presents the revenue side of the statement of operations found on page 4 of the financial statements. In the audited financial statements, the amounts under grants and contribution agreements are amounts received by CCEDNet from government or the community and charitable sector for projects CCEDNet is contracted to complete. In 2021, revenues increased significantly, mostly due to the first full year of the Create Action program. This chart compares the sources of revenue in 2020 and 2021. You can see that the proportion of government revenue is larger. Event income remained lower than usual as in past years, largely due to the pandemic. This slide presents the main expense categories from the statement of operations. A detailed breakdown of each of these categories can be found in schedules A to D, which are on the last page of the audited financial statements. And once again, the large increase in project costs is related to the Create Action program. Moving on to our balance sheet, which appears on page 6 of the auditor's report. This slide shows the assets, revealing a stronger cash position at year end than last year and lower accounts receivable. The liabilities side of the balance sheet shows that the accounts payable is comparable to last year, but the deferred income is quite a bit higher. So coming to our net assets, we see that our restricted assets have increased to over 634,000. The endowment for the Stuart Perry Youth Fund, that first number on the slide, also remains stable. This year, there's a lot of writing on this slide, but to summarize it quickly, this year the Finance Committee applied the updated reserve policy, which had been adopted in 2020, growing our contingency and strategic initiative reserves. This slide shows the evolution of CCEDNet's income, expenses, and net assets over the existence of the organization. This year shows a dramatic growth in revenues and expenses, attributable again primarily to the Create Action project. And this chart shows the evolution of financial results for the last 14 years. Our financial situation has shown positive progress since 2016. Finally, this is a chart of the growth in our non-capital net assets since 2003, also looking positive. Thanks, Jeff, for the comment. So that takes care of the financial presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. I'll turn it back to Victor now to invite questions.
Thank you so much, Gail, and thank you for your time and leadership as CCEDNet's diligent treasurer. Gail approves all CCEDNet expenses twice a month, as well convening the finance committee and presenting financial reports to the board. It is quite a lot of work that she does with diligence and great care. We really appreciate you, Gail. Before we get to any questions for Gail, I noticed that Jeff L. in the chat box had a question specific around the prospects for Econos in the future to Mike Toy.
Yeah, I think the short answer, Jeff, is that we haven't thought about that yet. We've in between some gaps in terms of staff leadership around the learning strategy and the rapidly changing public health and use of virtual tools and costs of travel, both financial and ecological. I think there's just a lot of variables we want to reassess. So not yet, although I do recognize there is an appetite for people to get together, and that can't be replaced. So we'll have to do some serious thinking about that.
Thank you so much, Mike. We really appreciate you. Are there any questions for Gail? You can post them in the chat box or raise your hand. And if you'd like to speak, please come off mute. Okay, wonderful. So we need a resolution to appoint the auditor for 2022. The board has recommended continuing with Group RDL for the next year. So we're looking for a motion to do that. Gail, will you make the motion?
Yes.
Can I get a seconder for the motion? Mike, if you can check I see two participants raise their hands. I just can't see which one of the 45.
How about Karina Dabramo-Rosales from Seed Winnipeg?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Karina. We appreciate you and appreciate the remarkable work at Seeds Winnipeg. Now for the votes. Please, members, vote in the poll on your screen that's about to pop up. Wonderful. So it seems the motion is carried. Remarkable. Thank you so much, folks. We really appreciate your leadership. So we're moving on to item number 7, which is resolutions. This brings us to resolutions. Last year, there were no resolutions brought to the AGM, so there's no report on resolutions from last year. And this year as well, no resolutions were submitted. So we can continue to directly onto the nomination results. So in terms of elections, 8.1, report from the elections officer, I'd like to introduce my brilliant colleague, Ryan O'Neill-Knight, our parliamentarian. Ryan O'Neill-Knight, I'd like to ask you to come off mute as our elections officer to present the results of the board's elections this year.
Excellent. And can you hear me okay, Victor?
Absolutely, my friend. Go ahead.
Excellent. And so the board appointed me, Ryan O'Neill-Knight, at their February 24th of this year, 2022 meeting to act as elections officer and to perform duties as per CCEDNet's bylaws and schedules. The terms of the 4 board members were ending at the 2022 annual general meeting. The board approved a call for nominations, which was issued via email and published on the CCEDNet website. The deadline was set for April 19, 2022. So 4 candidacies were received through the call for nominations. The membership status of nominees and supporters were verified. And as a result, the nominees were acclaimed elected for a 3-year term to be ratified at the annual general meeting. The directors elected by acclamation are Vidal Chavens, Barb Davies, Yvonne Poirier, and Nicole Rosenow Redhead. And I apologize if the pronunciation is off. It's my head, not my heart. I would like to express both congratulations and appreciation to those members for their service on the CCEDNet Board of Directors. They bring valuable and varied experiences and are making a significant contribution to the stewardship and governance of CCEDNet. CCEDNet is a network that is led by its members. I would again like to encourage the board to invest in member engagement and proactive outreach, including the communicating to diverse communities so that elections happen more often, that our acclamations and a wide range of candidates continue to ensure a strong and vibrant governance of the network. Respectfully submitted, Ryan O'Neill Knight, Elections Officer.
We appreciate you greatly, Ryan. Thank you so much for your leadership. It is customary to ratify the election officer's reports. Ryan, are you willing to move to ratify?
Yes, I am.
Incredible. Can I have a seconder to ratify the election officer's report?
Oh, we don't have a deluge this time. It looks like it's Karina again.
Mike, are you there?
Yes, sorry. It looks, I saw Karina. I don't know if Karina had her hand was still up from the last time, but I saw that was the hand I saw. Yeah.
I see Deambra Roses raises her hand. Thank you so much, Deambra. We appreciate you. And thank you, Ryan. So in terms of the poll on your screen, please feel free to vote. Thank you so much, folks. We really appreciate your leadership. The motion has been carried. And thank you, Ryan, for your contribution as the election officer. And thank you to all the members who put forward their name to serve as directors. We're fortunate to have such a terrific and dedicated group of people among our members who want to put in time to lead CCEDNet. So in terms of appreciations, I'd like to also thank all the board members and staff for their contribution to CCEDNet, and all the members for the support and different types of involvement. This year is actually the first year in some time that we didn't have any board members who had to leave before the end of their term. Thank you to all directors for your diligence and commitment to CCEDNet as an organization. I'd also like to remind everyone present that CCEDNet is led by its membership. The board is made up of volunteer members who set the direction and oversee the good governance of the network. We're always interested in having more people involved, whether it is on the board or in our policy working groups or policy council, finance committee, governance committee, or roles related to the annual general meeting, our AGM. If you're interested in getting involved, please reach out to our colleague Adriana or any other board members. Adriana is here, so you can just shoot her a message in the chat. In terms of announcements, we want to open up the floor if there are any announcements. You can post them in the chat box or raise your hand and proceed to unmute yourself. And please feel free to speak up regarding any announcements from your community or your respective organizations. Wow, I think we're making incredible time today.
Victor, just before you go, I want to take note of the comments Yvonne shared in the chat, which is a significant breakthrough at the International Labour Organization meetings in Geneva this week. And so congratulations to Yvonne for that work. And it's very encouraging internationally through CCEDNet and other support of REPES, the Intercontinental Network for the Promotion of the Social Solidarity Economy.
Yeah, incredible. I'm seeing it right now, Mike. At noon today, Geneva time, the International Labor Organization, ILO, International Labor Conference 2022 adopted the document Decent Work and the Social Solidarity Economy. Canada's delegation supported this approach throughout the 9-day meeting at my request. They had the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People added to the annexes. During the conference, I had exchange with the Canadian Union delegation, a big step forward. It has been 20 years since CCEDNet and the Chantier de l'Économie Sociale participated in the creation of REPES, of which our organization is a member. And I actually just followed REPES on Instagram. Folks, REPES is officially on Instagram, so please, when you get out of here, follow them. And thank you once again, Yvonne, for your eldership, leadership, and the consistent guidance and stewardship of the work at CCEDNet. We really appreciate you, Yvonne. So with that being said, folks, we're moving on to item number 11, which is our adjournments. Just before we end the formal portion of the meeting, you should be receiving a short evaluation of the annual general meeting via email. We'd be grateful if you take a moment to give us your feedback on your experience and what we can do to improve things next time. Can I have someone move for the adjournment of the 2022 annual general meeting for CCEDNet? I see 3 participants raise their hand. I just can't see which ones. Mike?
Sorry, I'm off mute. Brendan Reimer looks like he was at the.
Wonderful, thank you, Brendan. And our second?
And second, how about Aftab?
Aftab, thank you so much, folks. And I apologize, I'm not the best on Zoom, so I'm not doing very well in terms of managing multiple screens, but I really appreciate your patience with me. So the meeting is officially adjourned at, it seems like we're at the 45-minute mark. So at 1:45 p.m. Eastern Standard. Thank you so much, folks. I really appreciate you. Now we will move directly into the presentation of the Stronger Together Awards, and I'll turn this over to our Executive Director, Mike Toy.